Hey everyone, welcome back to Tatas Cave, Season 1, Episode 10. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about on the differences between people doing the same thing and why it has different results. We're also going to touch on who can and cannot speak for traditions. And as a final talking point, I did want to bring up the fact that there are definitely weird people that are observing me and then following in my lead. Some will call that copying, but you know. So let's get right into it. So first and foremost, there's no such thing as two individual people having the same results even within the same exact thing. For example, if I make a bath and if someone else makes a bath, we could both make the same exact bath with the same exact steps, the same exact prayers, the same exact ingredients, which is already rare in and of itself to see two people do the same exact thing. But let's just give that scenario that it is exactly the same and it could still come out with two different results. And there's several reasonings behind this, but we're going to touch on three mainly that I could think of. And one is that your energies are different, right? So each individual person has their own energy, their own fingerprint in spirituality. And because of that, everything that they do works uniquely to them. So if they make a bath, it's going to be uniquely imprinted by their energy. This energy will in turn give that bath a very unique result. Whereas another person will have their own unique energy, and that'll give it its own unique result. Then there's also licencia or permissions or authorities. These things definitely alter what a person can and cannot do. And one person can have more licencias than another, so more authorities than another. And they can do several different things that the other can't do. But more importantly, their elevated authority gives the same exact bath a much more drastic impact on the person taking it. This is very commonly understood within, let's say, Palo, for example. And then the third thing is relating to blessings. So I can have a lot of licenses or a lot of permissions. I could have a really good energy internally, but I can have a very bad ability to heal, or I can personally have a lot of negative energy around me, and that will result in a much weaker bath than, say, someone else that may have a lesser permissions than me, a lesser energy than me, but they are on their game, on their cleansing game, on their spiritual hygiene. They are on it because they don't carry any negativity. Their bath is gonna be at the higher end of what they can and cannot make. So it's gonna pack a punch as according to what's possible for them. Whereas mine, if I have the negativity, is going to be on the lower end of what I can make, because of the fact that my energies are disturbed in and of themselves. So think of it as like, how can I help you if I'm the one in need of help? How can I help you stand if I cannot stand myself? This is generally how that works. And so you'll see that it's not just an elder versus God kid thing. It's definitely everyone has a very unique fingerprint of what it is that they do and how the results come out. And we can all do the same exact thing, and all of us have varying results. And this is why it is that usually you'll notice that God kids can say, for example, do cleansings on themselves and on others, um, but they just never carry that punch that it would catch if, let's say, for example, their godparents were to do the same exact cleansing. This is why it's three main variables there that make it a very big drastic difference between a god kid doing it and a godparent doing it. Now, needless to say that a godparent can teach, an elder can absolutely teach the rest of the world how to do these things. And you can have my recipes for things all you want, but it will never carry the weight and the severity behind it when you do it as it does when I do it. So, this came to be the subject matter mainly because recently I had someone have a conversation with me about how they do not feel that a white bath should be worth as much as someone else was selling it for. For the record, it was not me selling the white bath, but it was someone that I do talk to, that I did confirm with them that their white bath is it's a good recipe. It's through and through. It is a good one, you know. And the third person went ahead and mentioned that, like, look, I can make my own white bath for a lot cheaper than what this person is selling it for. And I explained to them, listen, for you it might not be worth it, but for others it just might. If you can make a white bath, then make your white bath. But what you will make is not the same as what they will make. Even if you have the same exact recipes, you will not make the same thing they will make. You do not carry the same blessings that person carries. If you want someone's blessings, you have to get it from them. And the person was then talking to me about teaching people, and it's a whole different subject, but teaching is not a requirement. That is a very that's a very entitled mindset to have, to require others to teach what they do know. They don't have to teach. No one is entitled to the wisdom inside of my head. You can earn it from me. You can make me feel like I want to teach you, but you cannot demand it from me like I owe it to you. So that went out of hand there, and I respectfully decided to end the conversation at that point, because I don't think this person understood. In their mind they're like, well, I can do that for a lot less. Yes you can, but will it carry the same weight? And the answer is maybe not. But either way, this person was selling their product or their service, whichever you want to call it, because it is kind of like a product and kind of like a service, a bath, for their price. They set their price as to what exactly their blessings would cost someone else. If you want my blessings directly from my hand, this is what it's going to cost you. And yeah, that became an issue that I was not very happy with seeing this, mainly because in ATRs, especially on the Afro-Cuban side, one of the biggest things that you learn very early on is to never set the value of what someone else is worth. You do not have that authority. You should never tell someone else what they are worth, right? They will tell you what they are worth, and if you like the price, you get it. And if you don't, you don't have to. It wasn't meant for you. You can keep moving. It's okay to not want to get something. It's okay to feel like, hey, you know what? That's not worth it to me. It's perfectly okay. But yeah, so that's the issue with the two people doing the same exact thing and getting different results. That's how that tends to work out. It tends to work out, like, look, we could do all the same steps, but that doesn't guarantee that we're going to have the same results. That doesn't guarantee that your version of it and my version of it are going to be anywhere near each other. Your version might just barely help you. My version might change your life. And meanwhile, you're sitting here reducing what I'm doing to something simple that you can do. You're missing the whole point of the blessings behind that. You're missing the whole point of who exactly you're talking to and what blessings they could put into your life behind something that you could have done. Because you think that you know, and you think that your blessings just outweigh theirs, and that's not always the case. Not even for elders, that's not always the case. Even elders, one elder to another, um, they can both know how to do the same thing. For example, how to cleanse a house, and that does not mean that when one cleanses the house, it hits harder or as hard as the other one. They're not equally yoked there. One can have more blessings, and so their house cleansing can be stronger than the other. And that's okay. That's a part of spirituality. Not everything is one size fits all. Not everything is uniform across the board. So ignoring someone's own personal blessings is a very bad thing. Listen, people, please, please, if you really know your stuff, remember, do not, do not put a value on someone else's blessings. Even if it seems like they're doing something that you can do, ask yourself, well, I know I can do that, but will it be the same if I do it versus if they do it? And is their pricing um, agreeing with me? And if not, that's fine. I could do it myself. It'll hit a little bit less hard, or maybe it'll hit more hard. Who knows? But you don't have to. Um, but please do not be out here offending people and demeaning them and condescending them because you feel like you can do the same thing they can do. You can, but it will not have the same results. It will not have the same value. It will not be the same. And it is not okay, especially if you practice traditions. Because someone else can look at what you're doing and do the same thing to you, and you will not like that. You can be going and doing this or that ebo, and someone else can be looking at you and being like, wow, um, oh, wow, look at this person. They're doing that ebo. Shit, I could do that ebo for $20. They're useless. Look. So you see, it's a problem. Don't do this, people. Please. It's not okay. Um, On to the next subject is a part of that conversation involved. There was a certain tweet that I made that got a little bit of backlash there. People got angry for how I addressed someone that identified as an Iyawu. They were like, "Don't you think you're being a bit too harsh to the Iyawu? Um, you know, they're Iyawu. Why would you talk to them like that?" Um, and the answer is no. I was actually very gentle to that Iyawu, considering the offenses. I was very gentle to that Iyawu. I need you to understand that in traditions and traditional practice, there are certain titles that a person can acquire, certain ceremonies, certain initiations. Um, but these titles and these ceremonies do not guarantee that initiate um, the ability to speak. And that's because they are still new. They are still young. They still don't have anything to speak about because they still don't know anything. And so their responsibility is to remain quiet and to learn. Learn before you speak. Because a fool says they know and knows nothing, and they remain a fool. And a wise man says they don't know, and they keep learning and they become wiser. And so these titles, I mean, whether you're looking at it from like a palo perspective, a Pino Nuevo, there's the saying, Pino Nuevo que no embonda. Pino Nuevo que no embonda means I'm a brand new initiate. I don't have an opinion. Um, Yawo is another one, but that's in Lukumi. Yawo, no hables de religión, Yawo, which means Yawo, don't speak on the religion. Because they are a new initiate, they still don't know anything, right? So when these kind of folks with these kinds of titles and ceremonies start speaking outwards about traditions, what they're doing is they're spreading misinformation. They are hurting the tradition because they don't know yet. They're just saying what they think is right, not what they know is right, because they don't know yet. And the thing is, they're claiming their initiation, so they're coming from a place of authority towards others. They're using their authority to instruct others, but they're instructing them wrong because they themselves do not know, because they are brand new. And this is why it is commonly understood that brand new initiates have no opinion. They have no voice within the tradition. For you to have a voice, first you have to know what you're talking about. Um, these things are very old school parts of these traditions. As a matter of fact, they predate Cuba. This is not something new that started developing in Cuba. This is African culture 101. When you're young, when you're a child, you don't have a damn opinion. Shut up and sit down and learn. Go to school. As you grow older, obviously, you become an adult, and even then, even as a full grown adult, when an elder addresses you, you still wrong if you disagree with them. Um, this is how the traditions work. This is how they have always worked. But generally speaking, you'll notice that children do not address adults or address the outside world speaking on traditions. It's usually adults. Pay attention even to those wild random, listen, your uncle from Nigeria babalawos that hit everyone on Instagram. Have you ever noticed that none of them is ever a 10, 11-year-old child? It's always an adult. It's always someone, um, much later on in their life. That's for a reason. That's because children do not speak on traditions, because they still do not know. And this is the case with, the traditions back in Cuba as well. That part was not lost. Even, even further than that, there's a concept in Lukumi of an aleyo, which means a non-initiate. Listen, you could grow up around the tradition all you want. If you yourself are not initiated, shut up and sit down. You have no authority to speak on that tradition. None. None. If you are an Iyawo, shut up and sit down. You have no authority to speak on that tradition. When you do Ebo and you're out of your Iyawo period, and now you have become Babalosha or Iyalosha, maybe. And even then, in the old school ways, your elders still refuse to allow you to speak on things just because you're out of a Yao period. They would make you have to actually learn things. You actually had to be a knowledgeable Babalosha or Iyalosha before you had an opinion of things. So this whole long-winded thing was explaining that, non-initiates and recently initiated people do not have the authority to speak on behalf of traditions. But when they do, they are invoking their initiations and their ceremonies and speaking on the tradition. And so that is misleading others. That is causing more problems than it is fixing. So this person that I addressed, when I told them, hey, listen, you are Yawo, you don't have a voice here and your vote doesn't count around here. I was not being harsh. I was reminding them of their title. I was reminding them of their obligations to the ceremonies and the traditions that they have. And their obligation is to learn, not to sit here and judge others and try to teach. They should be learning, not teaching. They're still a student. They're not the teacher. Aside from that Iyawo went out of their way to start trying to publicly shame and humiliate someone else because they quote unquote know that this bath was not worth the price, or it wasn't done right. And they started mocking this person. And this goes hand in hand with them being new and not knowing. Because if they would know, then they would know everything that I mentioned earlier. That even if we both made the same exact bath, even if me and that Yabu had the same exact process for a white bath, my white bath might hit harder than theirs. My white bath might actually save their life versus where theirs would only fix one or two things. And it's the same exact thing. But since that Iyawo is Iyawo, they are brand new, they don't know this yet. They don't understand that concept. And so instead of sitting down and learning, they're out here on the internet attacking people and humiliating them. Which is wrong, because in that attack and in that humiliation, they're speaking out of turn for who they are. So that's all that tweet was. It was telling them to remember who they are and what their position is before attacking and humiliating others. As well as the Iyawo did make a statement of the blind leading the blind. After the person that they were talking to specifically mentioned that they were actually in communication with an actual elder that was teaching them the correct way. The Yawo then claimed the blind was leading the blind. So the Yawo was mentioning that I am the blind. So the Yawo, as a new initiate, not knowing what they are talking about, because they can't, because they are still a baby in this tradition, was calling an elder that has been practicing for a very long time the blind, aka I don't know nothing. So you are brand new, but you are calling me bullshit, basically. Okay, so that was the question of who are you calling blind? And that's where the harshness came in. Because this person went out of their way. First off, they're speaking out of turn. And second off, now they're offending me, an elder, which they have no business doing. They have no business doing that. And then I went ahead and further instructed them and gave them some advice. Listen, you are new. You should not have an opinion on these things. And then I said, if you do not like a price for something, I want to know who your elders are, because first off, they should teach you not to set a value on someone else. Second off, I want to meet you. I want to know who your elders are, because if you do not, if you don't understand this is a common concept within these traditions, right? You don't set someone else's value, and then you do not attack others based on the price. The price doesn't make anyone better or worse. It doesn't make anyone a scam or not a scam. It's the actions, right? So if I tell you I'm going to sell you a dog, even if I ask for $1 or $1,000,000, if I do not provide that dog, then I scammed you. But selling a dog for $1,000,000 and you wanting that dog and paying the $1,000,000, that is not a scam. I told you exactly the price. You liked that price and you knew exactly what you were getting. I told you what you were getting and you paid it. That's not a scam. So yeah, I was trying to mention to them, I want to know where your elders are, so that I can figure out who taught you to set values on others, and who taught you that it was okay for you to be out here giving your opinion on these traditions. Because as a new initiate, you shouldn't be. But if you don't like someone else's pricing, you can just literally not get it. You can literally just not get it. But what you don't have to do is come out here trying to humiliate people and talking shit about them because you do not agree with their pricing. Your lack of knowledge set you up for failure. So yeah, there was some backlash behind this interaction. There was even a TikTok live about me. And at the moment that it happened, I was very well aware of it. I have eyes everywhere, and I don't care to have them, but they are there. And people do not understand that. Listen, you can you can choose to go about things the right way, or you can choose to go about things the wrong way. I have no obligation to treat you how you feel you should be treated when you are already in the wrong. And what I mean by that is, yes, I can politely correct someone, absolutely. That is definitely a thing. In fact, I usually do. But when you have gone out of your way to be disrespectful to others and to humiliate others, that's when the politeness goes out of the window. I do not have to be polite. If you disrespected me or one of mine, I do not have to be polite to you. I can tell you to go eat a bag of dicks. And that's that. You cannot demand that I be polite to someone that is being disrespectful, much less someone that has no business talking about nothing. Because the saying is, if you do not want to be treated like an elder, then do not act like one. Do not pretend to be one. If you are Iawo and you wish to be respected as Iawo, then behave like Iawo. If you are Pino Nuevo and you wish to be respected as Pino Nuevo, then behave like one. But the moment you go out of your lane and you involve yourself in something that does not concern you, then you will be treated as if it does. And the moment you go out of your lane to try to disrespect people, then you better expect people to disrespect you back. This is life. I don't care what your title is. I don't even care what your elders' titles are. If you are disrespectful, I will be disrespectful back. That is life. That works even outside of the traditions. You cannot walk up to people and disrespect them and then be appalled when they tell you to go fuck yourself. You were disrespectful. You will get that energy right back. We gonna keep that same energy, player. Period. To that end, you know, is certain people, you know, when they do these things, when they speak out of turn, they're setting themselves up. And it reminds me of a lot of, like, you know, when I don't know how many of y'all watch Lion King, but it really reminds me of when Mufasa was thrown off the edge by Scarface. He set himself up for that. Do not be Mufasa. Do not set yourself up, because there will always be a scar that will quickly put you beneath ground. That's life. Stop putting yourself in situations you don't belong in, situations you're not prepared for. Stop making enemies out of people that don't have to be enemies. Play your role. It's okay to play your role. It's okay to not humiliate others. It's okay to not be disrespectful. It's okay to just stay in your little lane and keep it pushing. And you don't like something, you look, you give it the side eye, and you keep it pushing. But it's not okay to personally attack people because you do not understand concepts. That's your problem. That's between you and your elders. That's between you and them, the fact that you haven't been taught correctly. That's not everyone else's problem. Do not push your negativity on them. Do not humiliate them. Do not embarrass them. Do not attack them. If you don't know that, and if you don't know better, then that's your problem. And I also wanted to take a brief moment to touch on people seeing my tweets, seeing my IG statuses, maybe visiting my pages, listening to my podcasts, and then proceeding to make matching content identical to mine. This is something that has been ongoing for a while now. You know, I've seen myself put a tweet out talking about something random. Let's say, for example, the sky being blue. And then within, you know, a day or two, I would see a big spiritual account on Twitter talk about the sky being blue. Or I'll put a podcast out talking about titles not making elders, wisdom making elders. And then I'll see someone on TikTok putting up a video talking about titles do not make elders, wisdom makes elders. I've been seeing this for a while. And it's very funny because some of my god kids actually crack jokes and they're like, Tata, all these bitches is your sons, Tata. They don't understand it. They don't see it yet, but they are your sons. They keep following in your lead. I even went out of my way, man. I registered a non-profit religious organization because I am not for profit. I do not make a profit off of this spiritual tradition at all. I accept donations and I use those donations to help others. But I also do not welcome everyone to my lineage. The spirits specifically have to approve of you. I don't care about the rest of the criteria. I care about the spirits specifically have to approve of you. They have to know who you are and approve of you. And if they don't, then that's fine. You can still be helped. We can still do other things. You're just not going to be an initiated member of the internal body of the family of this house. And that's okay. You don't have to be. But I noticed recently that other people started registering, nonprofit organizations, and it's concerning how much people have been copying each other, especially on these internet streets. I need you to understand, a lot of elders, real elders, are on the internet, but they don't care to make their presence known. They are just watching and laughing at the internet. They're laughing at the internet because the internet continues to spread bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. So the real elders are sitting there behind generic profiles, just watching and laughing at you. And what I've noticed is going on is people will pick on other people that they really like. For example, me. And then they'll use the subjects that they came up with to talk on, and then they come up with their own twist to what they said, and then they post that. And then that person is watched by someone else, and then they come up with their own twist to what that person said, and then the next one comes up with the twist to what that person said, and next thing you know, it's a game of telephone. If you don't know what a game of telephone is, get 20 people in a room, line them up in one neat line, and go to one end of the line and tell them the cup is red. By the time you get to the other side of the room, the other end of that line, you're going to have all sorts of weird messages. What did they say? Oh, well, the tire was square. How do we get from the cup is red to the tire is square? And this is causing problems within these spiritual streets. People are constantly copying each other. No one actually knows anything. Everyone is claiming titles. Everyone is claiming to know stuff, but they don't actually know stuff. They don't actually have these titles. And the ones that actually have them may have just purchased them, but they didn't actually learn from nobody. They're not being taught. Their godparents are not their godparents. They are their service providers. This is a very real thing. I need y'all to understand this. This is a very real thing. For people to call someone a godparent, that's my padrino, that's my madrina. They initiated me. They gave me this and this title and this and that ceremony. But in reality, they're not teaching you nothing. And every time you reach out to them with a problem and you need help, it's a dollar amount behind it. That's not a godfather. That's not a godmother. That is a service provider. They are providing you with spiritual services for a price. So when you come from that kind of a place, it's very common to see that these people don't learn anything. They'll have the fancy titles, supposedly. Because even then, sometimes those people do get scammed, They'll have the fancy titles. They'll, have godparents, but they don't know anything. They don't. So, people with fancy stuff in their bio don't move me. They do not faze me. I do not care. Just because your bio is real cute does not mean that all of a sudden you know anything. So, they share this information back and forth, and they do all this and that to seem, more knowledgeable online, to build a following, to sell their services, to sell their products, to gain clout, um, for a variety of different reasons. But in the end, all they're doing is copying a copy of a copy of a copy's copy, and everyone is just going in circles and talking about a whole bunch of nothing. Meanwhile, the original ones that are originally coming up with the content are looking around like, wow, okay, you guys just gonna copy me, huh? Damn, it's so sad that I didn't speak my full mind and my full wisdom. I just gave you a hint of what I know, and I can't speak on the rest of it. So there's still a whole nother, like, you just touched the tip of the iceberg and you think you know something. The whole rest of the iceberg is still underwater. And I'm glad I didn't bring it out. So you know, these are very bad things. People need to stop copying each other. Stop copying each other's talking points. Stop copying each other's ideas. Be original. How good of a godparent are you? How good of a spiritualist are you if you do not have any specific ideas, plans, or goals of your own, and everything you do is a copy of others? How much time can you dedicate to your own people if all you do is mind other people so that you can know what you should do next? How good are you as a spiritualist at all if you just do what other people do? And the answer is, you're not really good. You're actually in a very bad place, and you don't even know it yet. Or you might know it and you just don't care, and you perpetuate a very painful cycle for those coming after you. You go through a painful cycle when you're first coming in, and then you perpetuate a painful cycle for those coming afterwards. So this copying really, really has to stop. It's not okay. Um, it's definitely something that is a problem. And you know, just to recap, as I said, not everything, not everything comes out with the same results. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. What works for me in a very great way could work for you, but only in a very good way. So you shouldn't want to copy me or anyone else. You should want to do what you do, your move. Work to your strengths, not mine. Because when you work to my strengths, you put yourself at a disadvantage for no reason. I work to my strengths. I don't follow anyone else's lead. I take my own lead. I make my own path. Um, and, you know, everything in spirituality um, is very much so, very, very much so, not one size fits all. There are different things for different people, and not everything is meant for everyone. I need you to be aware of this. This is a very big talking point. Not everything is for everyone. If something is for you, then you need to go figure out about that something, where it's at. Not where you want it to be at, where it's at. Figure it out. But it's not for everyone. Um, then we also have issues of the only correct people to speak on traditions are the elders of that tradition. If you are not an elder of that tradition, you should not be speaking on that tradition, because you are spreading misinformation, you are spreading mistrust, you are spreading problems, you are creating the pain that all these new folks that just want to reconnect with their ancestors are feeling. You are causing that. You are giving the wrong people platforms. You're drowning out the voice of the elders, albeit it could be very, very low, because elders do not care to be online. Even I myself hate social media. I don't really be on social media because I want to be. I'm on social media because I was told to be. And what I mean by that is, if you guys didn't know this, I plan to retire and take my lineage to my grave. And my spirit specifically told me, no, now I want you to scream at the world that we're still here, that they didn't finish no kind of job. We ain't dead. They could get their refund. And unfortunately for me, when he told me to do this, there's one way, only one way, where you can literally scream at the world. You could put one message out and the whole world could get that message. Social media. So I had to come to social media. It's not that I wanted to, it's that I had to. And I hate it on social media. For the record, I hate social media because all I see on social media is a bunch of lies, a bunch of scandals, a bunch of gossip. No one is doing nothing right. Everyone is claiming this and that title. Everyone is selling this and that product. Nobody cares about nobody's well-being. And when the elders do talk, everyone wants to over-talk them and wants to give a motherfucking opinion. Listen, shut up. The elders talked. Shut up. Shut your young ass up. Shut up. You wouldn't do that in person. You're doing that over the internet because you know you could get away with it over the internet. But in person, you wouldn't do these things. So yeah, it's very much so a problem. And people need to stop copying each other because they're just furthering that problem. They're creating the mess. When they do this, they are creating the mess. For their own personal gain, they are creating the mess. And they know they're doing it and they do not care. And they know they're supporting the people that are creating the mess and they do not care and they continue to support them. Please, please, people, if you do not want to see ATRs become African mythology, stand up for what is right. Because in the direction we're heading, these traditions become less and less practiced correctly and more just mythology. I mean, I've even had to go as far as having to explain to people there is no such thing as Ifa telling you what you can and cannot do within Palo. There's no such thing. And the same is true vice versa. Palo cannot tell you what you can and cannot do within Ifa. There's no such thing. They come from two different parts of Africa. They have no authority over each other. They're two completely different traditions. One cannot speak for the other. I don't care who is who and who is what. They are that over there, but they are not that over here. I'm tired of explaining these things to people. You can be talking about Olodumare themselves. Olodumare is an Ifa. Olodumare will speak for Ifa. Olodumare is nobody over here in Congo land. In Congo land, we don't care about that person. We don't pray to that person. We pray to Nsambi. Sambi runs shit around here, not Olodumare. These are things that people constantly get mixed up, and they don't understand that in continuing these mindsets, that they're being colonizers and conquistadors, because that's where this mindset came from, of coming in and steamrolling everything else but you. That came from the Catholicism that was imparted and forced upon others. I don't care what you practice, mine is better. You will accept it or I will beat you. And when you practice your tradition and you force the opinion of your tradition on another, you are no better than the Catholic missionaries that force Catholicism on others. So please, 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 people, stop copying each other. Stop doing these things. These are bad things. Wake up, open your eyes, and really sit down with real elders. Stop looking at all these internet people like they know something, because the majority of them have fancy titles and they don't know shit. They're just copying a copy of a copy's copy. They don't know shit. Don't get me wrong, I won't say none of them do. There are certain select few elders on here. I'm not the only one. I've bumped into a few of them, actually. You know, I bumped into a few of them. There's a certain few select elders on these social media streets that when you press them with questions, oh, they got all the smoke. They got all the answers. You can tell that's a real elder. You can tell. But the greater majority isn't. They're just putting cute little bios. and pushing products and gaining followers. They don't know shit. They're all just copying each other in circles. And please, I need y'all to understand that and wake up and keep it moving, because these traditions are dying. Because the internet is the new age Tower of Babel, Tower of Babylon, whatever you want to call it, where everyone now, the next generations coming in, they value the information on the internet way too much. So they look to the internet for reliable information. They look to books. They look to Google for reliable information. And when you do that to ATRs, guess where you're going to land? You're going to land at the profiles of all these people putting cute bios and not knowing a damn thing. And if we continue in this trend, these traditions become mythology. Not traditions, mythology. But anyways, thank y'all for listening. I appreciate you. Remember, your spirits come first. Your ancestors come first. If you would like, please don't forget, you can always make a donation to the temple. Those are always welcome, and the proceeds are always used to help people in need of spiritual healing from within the Nkisi Malongo tradition. Y'all have a good one. Be blessed.